Madam Chair, just I think I have no intention of pursuing, this discussion and this debate. I will leave it at where the chairman left it, that this is opinion versus opinion. But I do think that's a legitimate question by Mr. Cruz, particularly because I think it brings us to the crux of why we are here and why, as we have said, while we feel that there are enough laws for us to deal with any problems on the internet, there is particular focus on government and particularly government officials and agencies that deal with information, because that is where we then come to, as I said in the last hearing, the untenability of having public officials invoking their private positions. It will never happen. If you're a public official, as I thought Attorney Banaag was leading to, a compromise or an agreement and an understanding with ASEC MOCA, that for as long as you have this public position, then we have to treat everything you say, regardless of the platform, as something that speaks for government. Which is why I think, as I said, I have no intention of pursuing this particular topic on the vice president, but I do think it's an important question, and take this as an example. When an undersecretary for communications says this, is that the official position of the PCOO and of government?
Ms. Badoy, please clarify.
It is my personal opinion.
Okay. So, Mr. Alampay, you're head of Interaksyon and TV5 News, and very respected, and I've seen your demeanor and also your opinions in many of our proceedings, and we respect your inputs. I would like to ask, if you were the head of PCOO, what would your policy be? What would your policy direction be when it comes to, wasn't Mr. Andanar under you before?
No, I was way below Mr. Andanar.
Oh, okay. Whatever. No, but what would it be? Would you tell your people, your subordinates, to get rid of their own personal first and follow an official policy?
Okay. First, I say this not as interaction, but as invited, trying to imagine how would it be to be a public official. So it is in that context that I'm only trying to build a scenario. But I think the easiest way to deal with it is to basically tell anybody involved in official communications of government that there is no such thing as your private equity here. Anything you say will be attributed, not just will be attributed not just to you and not just to your office, but to government. I was about to say that I thought that the ASEC Banaag's discussion of how they've talked to ASEC MOCA, ASEC Uson, that they will now tell her, or they have told her, that anything she says is now there will be no distinction. Everything will be public. I was about to say, oh, that's good enough for me. But as the discussion went on, I realized that no, it does not end it. You take it from the other perspective as well. There will remain conflict there for as long as she has a private platform, as discussed by the bloggers, by media, and by the senators. As long as you're writing, your followers and your readers are an asset. It is an asset. And if theoretically, for example, a public official were to build up another 1 million followers during tenure, by the end of that, he or she would have gotten 1 million followers courtesy of taxpayer money. And therefore, there is that conflict. I say this by way of hopefully something that can be taken into consideration by Secretary Andanar as you formulate policies, but it is not as simple as coming up with a case-to-case agreement with, and the easiest way out of this is to just draw a line and say, if you are going to enter government, particularly in communications, you let go of all your platforms, and for that matter, your private equity as a private individual. If you don't like it, you don't have to join government. And as soon as you're not happy, you can leave government.